The hot sun of Medina was setting, casting long golden shadows across the city. But in the heart of the Caliph's court, a fire far brighter was burning, the fire of justice. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the commander of the faithful, sat with his piercing eyes fixed upon a matter that had just shaken the very foundation of fairness in the Muslim world. The message had come from Egypt, and it was not an ordinary complaint, it was the cry of an oppressed soul. A dusty traveler had entered the court, his clothes torn, his face marked with the deep lines of humiliation. He was not a soldier, nor a nobleman. He was an ordinary man, but his dignity had been crushed by the arrogance of power. He stood trembling, not from fear of Umar, but from the burden of what he had suffered. Amir al-Mu'minin, he began, I am a Copt from Egypt. I raced with the son of the governor there, and I won. But the boy struck me, saying, how dare you beat the son of the noble? And when I complained, his father, the governor, sided with his son, mocking me instead of giving justice. The hall fell silent. The words hung in the air like a sword waiting to fall. Umar's face darkened, not with blind anger, but with the weight of a man who understood that when the weak lose hope in justice, the entire society begins to rot. The governor, the man spoke of was none other than Amr ibn al-As, the brilliant military leader who had conquered Egypt for Islam. His son had been raised not in the shadows of humility, but in the luxury of power. To challenge such a man's household was no small matter, but Umar had never been a man to tremble before power. Umar turned to the traveler. His voice was calm, yet sharp enough to cut arrogance to pieces. Stay in Medina, he said, and you will see justice with your own eyes. Without delay, Umar sent a letter, short, direct, and impossible to ignore, to Amr ibn al-As in Egypt. Come to Medina, you and your son. Was long and hot, and perhaps, in their minds, unnecessary. Amr ibn al-As had governed well and expanded the caliphate's borders. Why would Umar call him for such a trivial matter? But Umar was not measuring land. He was measuring the hearts of men, and injustice was poison to that heart. When they arrived, the court was already full. Men of Quraysh, warriors of Badr, scholars and the common folk, all sat waiting. Umar stood tall, his frame like a mountain, his eyes like an unyielding storm. The Coptic man was brought forward. Umar pointed to the son of Amr. This, Umar said, is the man who struck you. Yes, the Copt replied. Umar called for a whip. The air grew tense. Then, in a voice that carried across the hall, he said to the Copt, take the whip, strike the son of the governor as he struck you. The young man's face paled. The murmurs in the crowd swelled. Here was the Caliph of Islam, giving a Christian man the power to punish the son of one of Islam's most celebrated generals, in front of everyone. The Copt took the whip, and with each lash, the sound cracked through the air, but more than that, it cracked through the walls of arrogance. When he had finished, Umar's voice thundered again. Now, strike, Amr ibn al-As. For you were wronged not only by the boy, but because his father failed to stop his injustice. The hall gasped. Even the Copt hesitated. Amir al-Mu'minin, he said, I have taken my right from the one who struck me. That is enough. Umar nodded, not because he doubted his own judgment, but because justice had been served, and the lesson had been carved deep into the hearts of all present. Then Umar turned to Amr ibn al-As and his son. Since when? Umar's voice shook with controlled rage. Do you enslave the people when their mothers bore them free? Those words, simple yet eternal, would echo through history. They were not just a rebuke to Amr and his son, they were a declaration to all rulers that power is not a crown to be worn for pride, but a trust to be guarded for the sake of the weak. But this was not the end of the matter. In Egypt, the people heard of what had happened. Whispers turned to open speech, and open speech turned to admiration. The Muslims and the Copts alike began to see the Caliph not as a distant ruler but as a shield against tyranny. For the Copt, this was more than personal revenge, it was the restoration of his honor before his people. And for the Muslims, It was a reminder that Islam's strength was not in swords alone, but in a justice that crossed boundaries of race, faith, and status. Amr ibn al-As, though shaken, understood the wisdom. He returned to Egypt a humbled man, his governance now tempered by the fear of Allah and the reminder that even he, the conqueror of Egypt, was accountable before a man who feared no one but his Lord. The challenges Umar faced here were not just political. They were human. He had to weigh the loyalty of a brilliant commander against the cry of a single man. He had to stand against the unspoken culture of the elite protecting their own. And he had to do it without weakening the unity of the Muslim state. But Umar's leadership was like a clear river. If a stone blocked the flow, he would not change its course, he would simply move the stone. His unwavering stance inspired even those he disciplined, for they knew he did not act from personal vendetta, but from the purest desire for truth. The story of Umar bin Khattab and the Caliph of Egypt has been told for centuries because it is more than a historical event. It is a mirror. A mirror for every leader who holds power, and every person who holds influence. It asks, will you use your power to lift the weak, or to protect your own pride? In Umar's time, the answer was clear. He showed the world that a man with a whip in his hand could still have mercy in his heart, and that a caliph on his throne could still kneel before the truth. And perhaps, the most powerful thing was this: the Caliph left Medina not just with the satisfaction of justice, but with the knowledge that in the Muslim Caliphate of Umar, the son of a governor and a Christian peasant stood as equals before the law of Allah. That, more than any conquest, was the true victory. The desert winds of Medina carried with them more than just the heat of the day. They carried whispers of injustice. In the bustling heart of the city, the caliph's court was always open. The poor knew they could walk in without guards pushing them away. The weak knew they would be heard without bribes, and the powerful knew that their rank meant nothing before the man who sat in that simple space, Umar ibn al-Khattab, commander of the faithful. But on this day, something different happened. A traveler entered, not in the proud manner of an envoy, but in the humbled steps of one who had been wronged. His clothes were dusty, his eyes red from exhaustion, and his face bore the silent weight of humiliation. He stepped forward, looked at Umar, and in a trembling voice began. Amir al-Mu'minin, I am a Copt from Egypt. I raced in a public event with the son of the governor there. I won, but after the race, the boy struck me with his whip, saying, how dare you beat the son of the noble? I went to his father, the governor, but instead of giving me justice, he mocked me and sent me away. Umar's eyes narrowed, not out of surprise, but because this story was the very thing he feared, the poison of arrogance creeping into the hearts of leaders. The governor of Egypt was none other than Amr ibn al-As, one of Islam's greatest generals, the man who had conquered Egypt with strategy and brilliance. His loyalty to the caliphate was unquestioned, but loyalty was not immunity. Umar leaned forward. His voice was low, steady, but carried an unmistakable edge. Stay in Medina. You will see justice with your own eyes. No debates, no committees, no months of delay. He called for his scribe and dictated a short, sharp letter. Greater than, from the servant of Allah, Umar ibn al-Khattab, to Amr ibn al-As. Come to Medina with your son, immediately. The letter was sealed and sent with a trusted messenger who rode day and night to Egypt. At that time, Egypt was the jewel of the Muslim empire, fertile lands, bustling cities, rich markets. Amr ibn al-As ruled with a strong hand, and his son, raised in privilege, walked like one who believed the world bent to his will. When the caliph's letter arrived, Amr read it carefully. His sharp political mind understood that this was no casual request. Umar did not summon generals across continents for small matters. The journey to Medina began. Across desert sands, under the scorching sun, the governor and his son traveled, perhaps thinking Umar would simply listen, give a polite warning, and let them go. They did not yet understand the depth of the man they were about to face. Medina's mosque was filled with people on the day they arrived. Not just soldiers and scholars, but the poor, the old, the young. Justice in Umar's time was not hidden in palaces. Umar stood as they entered, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that could pierce through excuses. The Coptic man stepped forward again. Umar pointed to the young man standing beside. Amra. This is the one who struck you. Yes, the Copt replied without hesitation. Umar's voice rose so all could hear. Bring me the whip. The whip was placed in the Copt's hand. Umar turned to him. Strike the son of the governor as he struck you. The hall froze. The son's face turned pale. The whispers of the crowd grew louder. In this moment, the mighty had fallen in rank, and the humblest man had risen to equality. The Copt swung the whip. Once, twice, the cracks echoed like thunder in the court. When it was done, Umar spoke again, louder, sharper. Now, strike the father, for you were wronged because of his protection of injustice. The Copt hesitated, his hand lowered. Amir al-Mu'minin, I have taken my right from the one who struck me. That is enough. Umar's eyes softened, but his words were steel. Oh, Amra, since when do you enslave the people when their mothers bore them free? The room was silent. Even the sound of breathing seemed loud. Those words cut deeper than any whip could. When Amra returned to Egypt, the story had already spread. The Copts, long accustomed to being second class under the previous rulers, now spoke of a caliph who gave them justice against the most powerful. Muslims, too, felt the weight of the lesson, that Islam's greatness lay not in conquering lands, but in conquering injustice. Amra ruled differently after that. No man, Muslim or non-Muslim, dared think himself above the law. Umar's whip had reached across the desert without ever leaving Medina. This was not a simple case. Umar risked offending a key military leader in a sensitive province, causing political tension between Muslims and Copts, being seen as undermining his own appointed governors. Yet he did not hesitate. For Umar, there was no small injustice. If the people lost trust in justice, the empire would crumble from within, no matter how strong its armies. This was not the first time Umar's justice shocked the people. Once, the son of Abu Sufyan, the governor of Syria, was accused of harming a man. Umar called him to Medina and punished him. In the same way, another time, a Muslim soldier wronged a Christian farmer. Umar ordered immediate compensation, publicly, to show that Islam's law protected all. These stories traveled faster than armies. They became the unseen walls protecting the caliphate. In the end, the Copt left Medina with more than justice. He left with dignity restored. Umar knew that power without accountability becomes tyranny, and that the true test of a ruler is not how he treats the strong, but how he defends the weak. Umar's words still echo across centuries. Greater than, since when do you enslave the people when their mothers bore them free? In that sentence lies the soul of Islamic governance, and the reason why the name Umar ibn al-Khattab still inspires awe and respect across the world.